All right. Well, we're excited to get into this episode of Best People, Best Place. As you know, if you've listened to any of the other episodes, I'm Matt Granados. I'm the host. And we have a great guest here, Mark Towler from Phase 2. Mark, I appreciate you coming on.
I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity, Matt.
Awesome. Well, hey, Mark, do me a favor. Introduce, in a very quick way, kind of who you are, what Phase 2 does as a company, and then we're going to get into why you guys have been recognized as the best place to work many times over. So let us hear who you are and what you guys do as a business from a high level.
At a high level, we do custom software programming for a handful of companies around the Oklahoma City and greater Oklahoma area. We started off in 98 doing a lot of website development and kind of over time geared into doing more complex projects. So a team of about 35 people and like I said, custom software programming on a variety of industries to help companies operate more efficiently.
Awesome. And there's so much, Mark. I hope some of the personal stories, some of the stuff you've done, some of the, riding bikes across the country, some cool things that you've done and organized to impact the world way more than just create pretty interesting software. So here's how we do this. We're going to break this up into 3 parts. The first part is going to be about how you build the employee themselves, right? The actual positions and how do we serve those positions as a company. And this is sponsored by LifePulse Inc. LifePulse is a consulting company that connects intention and structure in order to help companies and individuals get beyond motivation and achieve those desired results. So one thing, as you know, because we asked you to do this, and those who are listening know, because you've probably listened to at least one episode before this, that we don't just ask you, Mark, what your answers are. We ask your team. So all of these questions that we're going to ask are going to come from answers that your team has given us. So this one was pretty interesting. It was all about how you at Phase 2 make your culture the key part of who you are. And what they said was, it's not just a beer in the fridge, right? That was what somebody said on the survey. So walk me through what you mean by that, as far as it's not just a beer in the fridge. You guys make culture the key part of who you are.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting for me. I'm not a software developer, so we have a very successful software development company, but I couldn't write a line of code if you held a gun to my head. So from the very early days, for my role was, how do we build a culture that's going to attract and retain the really good people who are really good at what they do. And so it kind of manifests itself in a lot of different ways. I think, one of the core principles is we treat everybody like an adult.
Good.
We expect them to be adults. They're going to be treated like adults. We don't have a lot of policies and procedures. It really is guided by, one of the things we talk about at every company meeting is why the company is here.
Yeah.
And it's to have a positive impact on our customers and our coworkers and our community. And that says nothing about, great database schemas or, wonderful scripts or anything like that. It talks about how we can have an impact. And I think our team resonates with that. I think they're motivated by being a part of something where the mission is more than just making money, and it's more than just, the product or the services we deliver.
Right.
And I think the key part of that is, we've tried to, over the years, find a way to put some meat around that. It's not just words on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. So I think what they see, and I think what keeps them kind of engaged, or what our team engaged, is, we really try to live out some of these core principles and values in every decision we make and how we go about doing things. We're not perfect, but I think we've got a good long track record and a reputation within the community that we serve that, we live by those ideas.
Yeah, and it's funny. Another person put a remark on it to say the culture guidelines, the Phase 2 rules, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that's talked about regularly? And the reason I ask is some of the clients that we work with, when we go in, they do have core values, but they don't use it as part of the way they actually run the business, right? It's kind of like they need decoration on the wall, so they have core values, right? That's like what your comment that someone said about like a beer in the fridge. We actually use who we are, this culture. So walk me through why you did that, why you still do that, and why you use them on a regular basis within the company.
Yeah, so there's 5 rules that we came up with early on in the life of the company to kind of talk about the cultural guidelines. And they're actual stories that happened in the first year or so of business. And they speak to things like treating people well and taking care of our finances and having a good work-life balance, all those kind of things. But I'll give you a good example. One of them is the one we came up with about 2 years after we started, was that life's too short to pick an ugly dance partner. And that came about from, we took on a client engagement that, going into it, we were certain we could do and rise to the level of the technical needs of this particular project. But the people we were dealing with, we had some concerns with, but we thought, oh, you know what, we're good at what we do. And it turns out, like every client who's in the services business and probably every other business, it was a difficult and challenging client, not because of their technical expectations, but because there just wasn't a great ethical alignment.
Interesting.
And so that rule came about. I mean, we're coming up finishing up our 24th year. That happened 22 years ago.
Wow.
And so in terms of back to the point of, it's not just decorations on the wall, we actually make business decisions, and it's shorthand for us. If we've got a customer that's not a great fit for us,
right,
the question we'll ask ourselves literally in a meeting is this an ugly dance partner? Or if we have a team member or a partner. And so it's a shorthand way for us to understand the real issue is this a good alignment for us?
Yeah.
And so we use it as an active part of our, managing the business. And we have monthly company meetings, all hands meetings, and we talk about one of these rules every month. And so the people who have been here for like 10 or 12 years, they've heard us repeat these over and over again. But we don't have a lot of them, but they're very intentional, and they're a very important part of how we run the business day to day. And I think our people understand that. So when we say, life's too short to pick an ugly dance partner, they know that means we're not going to put them in a position to work with a client where we don't have an opportunity to have a win-win engagement.
And I think what's so cool about what you're doing with that is many people will say, oh, we do that too. But you guys have a term that means something to your team, which brings so much value to what the actual meaning behind it is, right? And I know it's kind of a cheeky thing you say, but you guys have meaning behind it. And when you say cheeky things and there's meanings behind it, they stick. So if you were to say, hey, we don't make you work with people you don't like, all right, cool. But when you sit there and say, hey, we'll never make you dance with an ugly dance partner, they go, oh, like there's a human side of it, which is brilliant on your part.
Well, I appreciate the brilliance comment. Let's make sure we have that recorded.
Oh, must have cut out a little bit.
Yeah, I tell you, I think that what our people really do respect and understand and appreciate and is that, yes, it is part of how we manage the business. It's not just words. And so I tell you, we picked up a new client a year and a half ago that became our biggest client. And the person who made the call from that customer was an ex-employee of a client that we had let go of years before.
Interesting.
For that reason, they weren't a great fit for it. They were, they're good people, but it just wasn't a good engagement for us and our team. So it's interesting that we kind of fired this client. We disengaged over time.
Right.
One of their team members ended up somewhere else and called us, and it's kind of a little bit of a joke. They're like, "Yeah, you fired us at one point, in this previous company," which was the right thing to do for us.
Yeah.
Right. Not bad people, but a great company, but not the right fit.
Right.
For what our team is really passionate about doing. So why would we put our team trying to find good software developers and software engineers, when you find them, you want to keep them. So why on earth would we put them in a position where they're doing the kind of work that's demotivating,
right,
as opposed to doing the kind of stuff that they get excited about? So it very much is a part of when we talk about the culture, it's very much using those principles and those cultural guidelines to make decisions consistently over a long period of time.
No, it's so good. And again, I mean, we do core values with clients all the time. And I always tell them, I say, the biggest mistake you're going to make is you're going to go through this exercise and not use them. Like, use them. So good job on that. I love hearing that. If you like the brilliant comment, you're going to like this one, because this isn't said by me. This is said by one of your employees. They said many times in meetings, Mark will say that what makes companies great over time is by making those small incremental improvements and repeating them every day, not a quantum leap of change.
Yeah.
Right. And that, again, this is why I think it's so important, is when you hear that, you go, yeah, okay, that I've heard that. That sounds like something from a book. But your team is hearing that and repeating that. Why do you think your team is able to repeat that? And why do you think they actually see value in you saying that to them?
Well, again, I think it's, and again, not to be self-congratulatory, but I think it's, saying those things is one thing, but actually living them out. And that's what people look at, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's what that, with raising kids, it's more what's caught than what's taught. I mean, they're watching.
Yeah.
Our team is watching. Our team is watching what our leadership team does, what our ownership team does, what I do.
Right.
And I believe that. And I think, it's not just a matter of, oh, that sounds good. That would make for a good company thing, a company trait. It's how we operate and how I think our team, who has been here a long time, and people who've been here just for a few months, see.
Right.
It's always, what can we do to get a little bit better and apply those small changes over a long. I mean, it's not my unique look at the world. I mean, that's a very long-term piece of wisdom, is that if you just get a little bit better all the time, and you consistently apply positive things, and you get rid of the things that are slowing you down, and you're willing to ask the question, what do we need to stop doing, and what do we need to keep doing, and make sure we don't miss out on that. I think asking the question, but also being willing to make decisions around that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what our people see, is that, again, it's not just a talking point on a piece of paper. We really try to do that, and it makes a difference over a long period of time.
Wow. That's very, very true and very good. How many people do you have in your company?
So we have two different companies, 35 between the two companies. We spun off a firm, a different division, about 6 or 8 years ago, based on some custom software we built. We commercialized it, but we kind of consider it all part of the same family, because we'll have developers work on one company and come back over the other company and back and forth. So 35 total between the two firms.
Got you. Walk me through your value. A lot of your people have said that they know that you are willing to invest in them. And invest is such an interesting term, right? Because there's the financial meaning behind it, but there's also the fact of pouring into the people, right? Filling the buckets, serving others, being a servant leader, pouring into them, all of that stuff. Why is that value, so important to you? And why do you think that has become so important to Phase 2 as the company?
Yeah, I mean, it's that cliche that, it's your people, right? I mean, ultimately, in our business, there are low barriers to entry. We don't have big investments in real estate or equipment. It's all about the people. And those people are, even pre-COVID, they're eminently, it's easy for them to move around.
Right.
And so, and again, what our clients are buying from us is the throughput and the output from our team in terms of thinking through issues and developing good software products and delivering on those. So ultimately, all we have is the people and the work throughput and what they do for our clients. So that's the asset, if you will. So improving our company really is about improving the level of the talent, the level of the people. And that comes from, hiring good people, but it also comes from giving them opportunities to grow, make mistakes. I mean, I actually, I hope our team is continually looking for ways to do things, that some of which is going to fail. And that's how you learn too. So I think they pick up on the fact that it's, they've got a lot of latitude to grow and do things. And I think our philosophy is, I've had this talk with a lot of folks, especially when they come on board. It's like, look, there's going to be a lot of latitude for making mistakes, but if you're motivated by doing what's best for our clients or what's going to help our company,
right,
man, you get a lot of latitude. If you've got an agenda or some hidden agenda, that won't cut it here.
Right.
And I think that people understand that, so they have the willingness to take risks and do things.
Yeah.
And back to your point, our company president, he and I worked together for 20 years, and he's big on really hands-on management and very much working hands-on with our team. And we're both motivated, and our chief technical officer, who's one of our owners as well, very motivated on how do we grow the people so that they can be, if they want to be a craftsman, they can be a craftsman. Wherever they want to go, what can we do to help them get to where they want to go? Because I can't write programming code, so I can't help them be better technicians or software developers.
Yeah.
What I can do is say, here's where we're trying to go as a company. And if that fits with where you want to go with your career, then great. That's a beautiful marriage.
Yeah.
And we're all going to win together.
Absolutely.
I think our team understands that they've got, like I said, there's no micromanagement here. It's also, if you're not a good fit, we're going to let you know pretty quickly that you're not a good fit. And, it's funny, one of our clients that's been with us for about 10 years, two of their key people are ex-employees of Phase 2. So sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes, people's circumstances changes. Sometimes what they want to do changes.
Right.
The company, we've made a few small pivots over the years.
Yeah.
I think if you treat people well, I mean, first of all, I think it's the right thing to do. You just treat people well. But the benefit is sometimes those folks end up, like I said, one of our long-term clients.
Right.
It's two people that used to work here.
That's funny. Well,
because life's too short.
And you kind of transitioned right into the second phase, not necessarily ironic enough to be phase 2, but our second phase of what we're talking about, which is growing the people as individuals. And this portion of the program actually goes and supports a 501c3 youth leadership program called Eagle University that helps students 15 to 24 get a 7-year career head start. So it's all about helping them become who they are, finding who they should be, and actually living out that life that they should. And you've said a bunch of things that your team has actually put out there, and they were comfortable enough of putting their names on it, right? Like I said, I'm not going to share their names, but the first thing was the love for the freedom they do with their job and not being micromanaged, right? Like, and what they said was what you all have to do is it's a creative process. It's also technical, but it's also creative. And to have the space to be creative and not be micromanaged is something that this individual says they were never able to find elsewhere. So how do you do that with so many, you got almost 40 people that you're looking over, making sure they're getting their job done, doing it well? Is it in the hiring process? Is it in the training process? This section is more on how do you pour into the person, and how do you get people who you can let go and they're going to take the wheel and not crash the car?
Yeah, I think, Matt, I mentioned earlier that, again, I can't write programming. I'm not a software developer. So from the very beginning of the life of our company, I had to, have trust in the people that were going to be running the technical delivery process.
Right.
And so I think, I can't second guess. I don't have the skills to go look and see, did they craft a good set of code? I got to listen to what our customers tell us and see how projects are delivered. So I think all that to say, I think that for me, it becomes a philosophical approach that I'm going to be hands-off because I can't be hands-on in what we do to generate revenue.
Yeah.
And so from the very early days, it was, I've got to find the people. I've got to surround myself with people. It's a whole cliche too, right? You get people around you who are smarter than you, and I've been very fortunate and blessed that's happened.
Right.
But I think it's also the willingness in a leadership role is to let go and let people make their own decisions, give them the autonomy, don't overlook, and just give them, here's the guidelines for where we are culturally. Mm-hmm. Here's where we're trying to go as a company with a vision. If this fits what you want to do, Matt, great. You're going to be a great fit. You go out there and tear it up, but I'm not going to get in your way.
Yeah.
And when I used to work for other places, it's like, I know what I can do as an employee. Don't hamstring me or handcuff me by giving me these stupid policies and rules.
Yeah.
And so I think I think it really does start with the philosophy first of you got to have people you can trust. And in our world, our clients, we have a very high trust relationship with our clients. We're helping them with strategic initiatives that use technology.
Right.
They don't always understand what's going on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So that high trust kind of environment with our team transfers to the high trust environment with our clients. And I think our people respond to that. We're not perfect. We've made plenty of mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes. Our team makes plenty of mistakes over time. But I think what they understand is it's okay as long as we're trying to do the right things. And we do make a mistake, we're going to fix it. But I think people respond to that.
Yeah.
I don't think people like to be micromanaged. They're smart people. They're passionate about what they do. So again, I think it's about here's where we're going, and if that fits, then you go contribute the way you contribute. As long as you're playing by our cultural guidelines, and you're doing what's best for our clients.
Yeah.
You get to back to that page. You're an adult. We're going to treat you like.
That's good. All right. This is an answer I have yet to hear from somebody, especially in a tech industry where programmers tend to put their headphones on and work 24 hours a day, then sleep 24 hours, right? Like it becomes this kind of zombie mode. When I came to phase 2, they helped me realize that I'm not a machine. I'm a unique person with unique gifts to give to our clients and to people around us. They helped me realize that our main purpose is to serve the community and the people in it by being a relatable and uncommonly kind human being. It's not about the code. It's about our community. Wow. Where in your job description of what you do as a company says that? Because to have somebody voluntarily jump on a survey, and not just one, I mean, there's a lot to get through here. So your answer is going to be a little bit shorter because I want to hear more about what your people are saying, right? Like to get someone who says that as a coder, who is basically the new for lack of better terms, warehouse person, right? They're coming in, they're building everything, getting stuff ready to go to be delivered.
Yeah.
So that you showed them, your company, right? Because I know you don't want to take credit for it, but your company showed them that the purpose of life is whatever they say next is wild. How do we do that? How do we pour into people in a way like that allows them to deliver a superior product and also recognize that there's more to life and it's serving the customer?
Yeah, I think that, again, I come back to the why. Why are we here as a company? And it's a slide that starts every company meeting. It's phase 2 is here. Our purpose is to have a positive impact on our customers and our coworkers and our community. And I think ultimately, you live long enough, it's like those are the things that become important, that last a long time, that you can leave a legacy with.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not sure if I can give you a good, concise answer other than that's kind of it's a belief system that I have, and the people who have been attracted to phase 2 reflect that. They embrace that. They extend that.
Yeah.
And that for me as a founder is very gratifying, that I can look around today and see people that not only have listened to that, but they also live it out, and they're extending it in ways to, in their own lives that, it's, again, not to get too overly philosophical, but, we're all leaving ripples, right?
Yeah.
And so hopefully we can leave a lot of ripples. And I don't know. I think it's like I said, it's philosophical choice.
Yeah.
And not every company makes it, but I think it's really gratifying to hear that comment, because that tells me that our team is buying into what we do.
Yeah.
And I've told people too, look, this is who we are. We're very authentic, and it might not be for everybody, but this is who we are. We're true to it, and if it works for you, that's great. You got a home here, but we're not going to be somebody we're not. That's just who we are.
All right. Well, I hope you're ready and you've eaten your humble pie, because you got more coming your way, right? This person, fix their leaky faucets. This is how you help people pour into themselves and become better people. What does fix their leaky faucets mean to you?
So, real briefly, I've been in business forums for most of the time I've owned the company. So, monthly meetings with non-competitive business owners, we can talk about anything.
Right.
And very early on in the life of the company, I was in a meeting, and we had a gentleman who had to miss a couple of meetings for a health issue. Mm-hmm. And as he was coming back and kind of updating the team, and I was in my 30s at the time, I would say he was an older guy. He was probably my age now, but he had a heart issue. And anyway, long story short, as he was updating everybody on what had happened, he made two different comments during his updates that were not related, but they sunk in with me. One of them was, he mentioned that his relationship with his wife had improved because he kind of had a pretty serious health scare, and he now took that relationship a little more seriously.
Right.
Elsewhere in his updates, he made some comment about he was getting some projects around the house that he'd been putting off, like fixing a leaky faucet in his kitchen.
Gotcha.
And it just, I don't know, those two things clicked with me, and it was a really interesting way to talk about how, because I had come from Northern California, worked in a bunch of venture-backed software companies where people were working 80, 90 hours a week,
right,
trying to change the world. None of those companies ever did anything of significance. There was some great learning. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
But I also saw a lot of relationships get crashed against the rocks.
Yeah.
So when I had a chance to start phase 2 and set our own culture,
right,
it's very important to me to make sure that people didn't get so wrapped up into work that they forgot about what's important. Because what's important is, we do stuff. We're helping a lot of companies, but we are not curing cancer here, right? We're helping companies sell hamburgers, right?
Right.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's important work, and we take pride in what we do. But at the end of the day, if somebody's going to miss a kid's soccer game to try to do something, then we're not managing our business very well.
Good. That's good. That's awesome. All right. Let's keep it rolling, man. Like I said, you have a lot to answer for in this section, which is good. Every year, owners sit down with each employee and ask them, what can we do better? So you actually sit down with employees and you ask them to critique you?
Yep. So we do a thing with, we have a couple of people from our leadership team and one employee. So it's called a one-on-one, but it's technically like three of us. I say us. three folks from the leadership team and every employee.
Yeah.
And so once a year we sit down with them. It's a very simple format. So this is our version of our annual review. So we ask them to come in prepared to talk about what are the things we're doing as a company that we should keep doing. What are the things as a company we should get better at? What are the things we're doing we should just stop doing altogether?
Yeah.
And we also ask them in a very open-ended way, what form of compensation is meaningful and relevant to you?
That's awesome.
You know, and so the first question tells us, what do we need to keep doing? Because that's what helps. As one of our guys said once, he said, that's a question that, you know, the way I answer that is, what keeps me from answering the phone when a recruiter calls? What does phase 2 do that I want to see keep doing? Why am I here?
That's awesome.
Another one is, how do we get better? And then we're pretty good about not falling into old habits and doing things the way we've always done them. So the last question of what we need to stop doing, usually we don't get a lot of feedback on that because I think we're pretty good about pruning the stupid stuff. But I will tell you an interesting thing about those meetings, Matt, is that invariably I'll have someone go, you know, there was one thing I wanted to bring up. And that's when everybody's ears perk up, because what they think is a small thing, right? Small little thing becomes those kind of things that are those small incremental improvements.
Yeah.
And so we really encourage people in these meetings, look, you might have something that you're not sure you want to talk about, bring it up. So it's all confidential. It's off-site. It's not in the office. And it's meant to have a dialogue and listen to, from that employee's perspective, what are we doing well? What can we get better at? What do we stop at? And then when we talk about compensation, you know, for a lot of people, it's salary. But for some people, as their life circumstances change, they want more time off.
Yeah.
We had one person say, you know, next year, my wife and I are going to start having a family. But before we do that, we'd love to go to Europe for 3 weeks. Like, well, great. But let's talk about let's plan on how we do that so that you can be gone for 3 weeks. It doesn't interrupt the work you're doing, and you've got the space to go do that because that's important to you. And it's amazing when you ask people what's important to them.
Yeah.
They'll tell you.
Oh.
And we're a small business, right? We don't have policies and procedures that we don't have outside investors. We can do, there's this kind of joke, you know, we're a small business, we can do what we want. But the truth of that is that we can be very unique in how we do compensation, because what you might find important or what somebody else might find important isn't always the same thing. And if we as a company are willing to be open and flexible, it's amazing how people respond to that.
Oh, man, I should have had you write that chapter in our book of Motivate the Unmotivated, because it's so true. We throw dollars and cents at people, and I have somebody here saying, what do you like most about it is vacation time is not only encouraged, it's mandatory, right? Yeah. Going right to what you said. I have another person here that says, the majority of my life I've worked at this company. If that doesn't mean I love this company, I don't know what would. Another person here, open door policy, that you're able to go in and talk about whatever you want. Frequent check-ins with each other. We have the freedom to ask for days off if needed. I mean, every single person has their own version of why they love. And again, there's many of these. I'm literally picking out random ones as I'm scrolling through what they put through. I've never had an issue getting what I need to do my job efficiently. And that's one I want to talk about. People tend to assume, I hired you, I'm giving you a paycheck, now go do your job. Like, it's like the transactional thing is, I did my part by saying yes. I do my part by my team sending you a check. Now get out there and do your job. I don't care if your computer's slow, if the internet's slow, if your chair hurts. What is it, right? So how do you balance that? And how are you so good at giving people what they want in order to get, obviously, the end goal is to get what the company wants when it comes to strictly, forget the human side of living life, but the strictly business side is, how do you balance that? And how do you get that to work in your company of that size?
Yeah, you know, there's a certain amount of enlightened selfishness there, right? It's like you just said it. If we're going to be successful as a company, we got to make sure our team is successful. So let's focus on the team, because if they're all really motivated and doing the things that they love to do, and we're picking the right clients to go after, then it becomes very frictionless. Not that we don't, again, we've got challenges to work with clients, but it becomes so much easier if the team is, you know, doing what they enjoy doing, and we're doing it with the kind of clients that they like working with. So it just seems logical to me that if we're going to succeed and win, you know, they've got to have what they need to get their job done. And again, it seems really, I've never worked for very, very large companies. Like I said, I've worked for some high growth companies, but the idea of policies and procedures, because that tends to limit things, right?
Right.
So our thought is, how do we take those shackles off, and how do we make sure we're continually reminding ourselves not to get caught up into policies and procedures?
Yeah.
So, you know, you kind of touched on one thing we do. Everybody has a tech budget every month, so we add funds into their personal tech budget, and they can use those funds for anything they need to get their job done, whether it's a new iPhone or a new computer. And we had one guy who, and so it adds up. It just builds up, and then when they're ready, they can spend it on whatever fits the very broad definition of what's going to help you do your job. So one guy's like, you know what? I'd really like a more comfortable chair. Great, go get it. It's $1,000 chair. And all of a sudden, within 5 months, we had bought 5 $1,000 chairs because he inspired everybody else. But I mean, that's back to that. You're an adult, right?
Yeah.
I like the idea of having people being able to have control. If they need to leave early, again, for a kid's soccer game, if they want a nicer chair, but somebody else wants a much bigger monitor or 2 monitors or 4 monitors, then let's give them the tools they need. Because again, ultimately, like I said earlier, these people are in high demand. They're valuable team. These are hard to find, excellent software engineers, developers, designers. And so let's give them the tools they need to be successful, because otherwise it makes it easy for them to pick up the phone and answer a call from a recruiter.
Absolutely. And here's the deal. I don't care where you are in the country. One of our larger clients has asked me what the best way is to poach. And I said, look, I can't give you that info. And that goes against everything that I teach when we go out and consult. But the Silicon Valley of the world are going to pull people with no reload, high budget. Yeah. And we've had clients, and just like you're saying, we've had clients turn down 50 to 100% increase in pay because of the value they get from working at this company. It doesn't work all the time, right? Look, there's some times we're like, hey, you got to take that. Like, me and the client, that's good for your fam.
We're going to lose people. And that's one thing I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
I guess I understand that people are going to come and go for a variety of reasons. And one thing that, again, back to my own philosophy, is I don't want to lose somebody for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
That we weren't taking care of them, we weren't paying attention to them, or whatever. Those are the wrong reasons.
Yes.
If somebody has a life change, or they can get, a 50% increase and do the work, man, I'm like, God bless you, go do it.
Yeah.
And you'd be a fool not to. But that's one of the things that will bother me, is if we lose somebody for the wrong reasons, and the wrong reasons are things that we can control, or that we didn't ask about. And so what can we do to continue to make sure that people, again, feel like this is where they want to be and they can contribute and have a home. But, it's going to happen. And I hope our team is being constantly recruited, because that means we've got
good people,
really high quality people.
Yeah.
And so then the onus is on us as a leadership team to figure out, okay, how do we make sure that they, again, don't take that call, that they stay here. And it's all those little things that compound over time that, again, it's very gratifying to hear these comments from people. But I think that's just a manifestation of doing those little things consistently over time that puts our people first.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, you put your people first, and everything else, I believe, takes care of itself.
100%. One of the things when we work with clients, we say is our goal while we're working with you and while they're following what we're teaching is that they don't leave you for any other reason besides a no-brainer. Meaning, hey, I just want to work for a competitor of yours, no pay increase, no change in anything. I just don't want to work for you that badly is an issue, right? And we have people quitting all the time. We got the great resignation going on, right? Throughout this whole time where the world is in the most unknown spot, but people are literally just leaving jobs to do nothing. I'll figure it out. I just don't want to be here. That's a bad sign. And when we come in with clients, our goal is to go, look, that's got to go away. What are we doing that is pushing people away? Forget what you're doing, which is amazing. I mean, you're keeping people. I mean, a recruiter I bet you recruiters stop calling phase 2, right? They see which company people are looking for. They're like, phase 2? Maybe I'll try this other company down here first, right? Because they're going to have to overcome some barriers that you've created, which is awesome. And again, I'm talking strictly from forget the heart that you have, business to business is very wise. Then you start talking about the human to human side, and it's just the way you're supposed to do it. And that's really what it sounds like it breaks down for you.
And that's for me. I mean, I'm like I said, I've never worked in a large corporate environment, but one of the things I really appreciate about small to medium-sized businesses or owner-operator businesses is that we get to make our own choices and we get to design kind of how we want to live our life. And I think that's again, not to get, but that's sort of the backbone of this country, right?
Yeah.
It's small businesses. And so I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship. I'm a big fan of people going off. If we have members that want to go start their own thing, how can I help you do that?
Yeah.
Because it's a big part of what I think makes this country wonderful. Is we've got the freedom to do that. I mean, I didn't grow up in the software business, and here I am. I own a software company.
It's great.
And it's so yeah. Just I think it's like I said, it's the right way to treat people, but ultimately, it's good for our business if our team feels like this is a place where they can do what they love to do with very few shackles, if any. A good philosophy where they're valued, and that's again from a pure business point of view. The cost of turnover doesn't show up on the P&L, but we all know it's a really expensive thing to have to deal with replacing people. And we've got so much domain knowledge built up from our team that have been here 10, 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
So, and I do think that and like I said earlier, that the fact that they embrace that culture and are now extending it, and that is very gratifying from a leadership.
It's great. I mean, they've done studies that the average onboarding and offboarding costs the company $4,500 to $8,500. Not even included. That's just getting people on and off the bus. Right. Then you talk about the training, and I think it's something like 20% of whatever the salary is going to be lost by turning it over to somebody else. I mean, it's mind blowing. But you said it doesn't show up on the P&L, but it shows up in the pockets of the owner, whether you know it or not.
It definitely shows up. And I think our clients,
it's good.
We have a handful of clients we've had for a long period of time. This one we brought on a year and a half ago is our most recent client. We should hopefully be having them as a client for 10 years, if not longer. But yeah, they appreciate the continuity too. They appreciate the fact that it's the same people they're dealing with, that we really get to know their business, that really get to know their people, we really get to know their issues. And while our clients might have people, because they're all large companies, large corporate entities, they're moving people around.
Right.
But they know that we're able to keep the good people at phase 2 on their account. And so that continuity is valuable for them. So again, back to a pure business point of view, it's good business for our customers to not have to see an ever-changing roster of developers working on their stuff.
That is good. That is really good. All right, so here's the phase 3, right? We're going to go one level up of what you normally talk about, right? But phase 3, and that's I call it the BAM portion or the give back, do good, whatever you want to call it. And this sponsors a foundation that obviously means a lot to myself. It's Take Part Foundation. It helps fund projects for research for extremely rare pediatric conditions. You might not know, Mark, but I have a daughter who's got a very rare medical condition, and this is how we started it because we were told there's no answers. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, that's not true. We just haven't found it yet. So we didn't realize that there's 30 million other kids out there. So this goes towards Take Part Foundation, all about pediatric rare disease research to figure it out. And as I look at some of the stuff that your people have said that your company has supported, I mean, what a list. So things like, and we'll have links of all of this in the show notes, right? So other people can access it and go to it and help support also. But,
that's great.
Things like OK Kids Corral, and we're going to go into what that is, Calm Waters, Young Life, Folds of Honor. Walk me through kind of why do you give back? Why do you do good in your community? You have so many things you're doing. You're serving your clients, you're serving your employees, and we've gone through all of that. Why are you doing the good part to the community that is not asked for? It doesn't help you from a financial perspective in any way, shape, or form outside of potential networking, but that's not worth the dollar or energy you do. Why do you do this stuff?
Yeah, I think it's, again, it's going to sound like a cliche, but it's the right thing to do. I mean, none of us get to where we are without somebody, helping us along the way. I can point to many examples where my career and my life has been enhanced by people who are willing to, whether it's a hand up or an encouraging word or some mentoring. There's just a lot of needs in any community. It's interesting when we talk about this. I had a mentor of mine tell me once that, there's a lot of needs out there, and you got to figure out which ones resonate with you, because you can't, whether it's putting diapers on babies or saving dogs or whatever it is, you can't do it all. So you have to pick kind of what is meaningful and relevant to you.
That's good.
But I think ultimately it's just the right thing to do, and it's not just because it feels good; it's because it's the right thing to do, and it does feel good. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And I'm with you. It is certainly not a calculated business decision that if I do X for nonprofits, I'm going to expect Y in return. It's not that at all. I think our team appreciates that we do care enough to be involved in organizations financially and otherwise.
Yeah.
But that's, that the motivation, it doesn't feel like the right motivation to do it because I think, oh man, if I show up here at this nonprofit, like you said, I'm going to get something back. It's more about how do we help others along the way. It's back to that thing we talk about at the beginning of every company meeting. Why are we here? We're here to have a positive impact on customers, coworkers, and our community.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I see that it could be as simple as, holding the door open for somebody is a very, very small thing.
Right.
Or, trying to brighten somebody's day. And then there's the larger things like providing financial support to organizations like the one you mentioned that are trying to do challenging things and solve hard problems and help the community at large. And that's worthwhile to support just because it is on its surface.
Yeah, that's so good. All right, so we talked about all the good things you're doing, all the people you're helping, all the people you're serving. Now I get to ask you what's not going so well. And I always like to ask this question because I think sometimes listeners hear what you're doing and are like, well, Mark's got a bigger company than me, or I don't have the time Mark has, and Mark doesn't have the challenges I have. And that one always tends to come out eventually, right? And I know that's not accurate. I know you have the same challenges that every business owner does and every business person does. So when it comes to right now in the world we're in, it comes to motivation. What are you running into? What issues are you seeing in motivation that you wish you had a clear answer to?
The biggest thing I think we deal with, and it comes back to the culture at phase 2, which is a big part of, I think, who we are, is adapting to a work from anywhere environment.
Yeah.
On the plus side, we've got team members. We have one individual who lived here and loves hiking. So he moved to New Mexico because it was a lot easier to let him work remotely, and that's where he liked to be, and he wants to travel. We've got another guy who's got 4 young kids, and they're spending weeks at a time in a trailer traveling around the country with their kids, and he's working during the day. But what the challenging part of today is how do we maintain that cultural continuity?
Yeah.
Because we've been able to now hire people, and we've got people working in 5 different states. 2 years ago, it was 1 state.
Right.
All the central Oklahoma area. We all came to the office. We all saw each other every day. That camaraderie, that teamwork that comes from these ad hoc conversations you have. How do you replicate that in a virtualized world?
It's tough.
It's something that we're dealing with. And we're back to that same thing of let's try some things. If that works, great. Let's keep doing it. If it doesn't work, let's stop doing it.
Right.
And I can't tell you that we've got it really kind of nailed down yet, but we're continuing to try to iterate and try different things about how do we build the community within phase 2 when we're in a disparate remote world. Where it's like I said, it's a challenge. We've tried some things and we're going to continue to try some things. I think ultimately the culture, the philosophy we have transcends barriers, geographic barriers, but that's not without having to think differently about how we do that.
Gotcha. No, that's a common issue. And like I said, it's definitely normal. How about when it comes to structure, right? And having structure. I know you guys don't have much you keep saying we don't have much formal structure or formal training, but how do you function in a time like this with the structure? And any issues with structure, or is that something that kind of comes natural for you guys because of your autonomy?
I think it comes naturally with the autonomy.
Gotcha.
The process of how we build software development requires a lot of team interaction, and it always has. And so the fact that it's virtualized now is just using different tools to make sure we're doing the same kind of the best practices we use for software development.
Yeah.
Don't require us to all be physically in the same place.
Right.
And so for us, we've been very fortunate that going to a work from anywhere world, those tools still work the same way. There's a lot more Zoom calls, obviously,
right.
But the process adapts well to not being physically in the same location all the time. So
that's good.
The process and stuff we haven't had to change that much, other than, again, some of the tools we use to communicate.
Yeah.
Or more embracing of the tools that were always there. But yeah, like I said, the big part of what we do, software development, the procedures we go through, how the team works together, how we define problems, how we iterate on a customer's issue, how we solve the right problems first and rinse and repeat.
Right.
That really hasn't changed. It's just, like I said, the tools are a little bit different because not everybody's physically in the same room.
Nice. Okay, final question. Company are dealing with this concept of burnout, overwhelm, too much work, not enough bandwidth for the individual. What are you struggling with when it comes to the individual's overwhelm level or bandwidth or burnout rate?
I think specifically, we started a year and a half ago when the pandemic hit. So you think about last, 2020, we had all of the uncertainty about the pandemic. You had racial issues in the country that were bubbling up. You had an election year that was, brought out a lot of emotions. And I guess one of the things that, and I lost my wife in early 20, so I'd been through a big loss early in 20, and I started going to counseling, grief counseling as a part of that. And so I think one of the things we did was we brought in the guy that I use as a counselor. We brought him in on company meetings before to talk about mental health, right? Because, try to take some of the stigma off of it.
Yeah.
Because, again, there's a lot going on in the past year and a half. And so it's hard to know, especially, you're not seeing everybody every day. So those kind of nonverbal cues you and I might pick up on if we're in the office every day
right.
are harder to pick up on remotely.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for us, the biggest thing that, and it comes back to trying to, treat people well, is to realize, or not just realize, but how do we find a way to make sure that our team knows that, they're at home, their kids are at home, they're homeschooling, they know that's not what they're meant to do.
Right.
That they can't go to work to get away from the family, or, there's a lot of closeness. So what can we do as a company to take care of the individuals? Because, and again, from a selfish point of view, if they're struggling, they're not going to be good, effective, at what they do. But really the bigger issue is if they're struggling, what can we do to help them?
Yeah.
And so, having counselors come in and talking, I think not just the very nature of talking about mental health.
Yeah.
And talking about the fact that it's okay to get help. And again, I can live that example out and talk about, even though I've had a loss, I lost my wife of 34 years. We've all had a loss when we talk about not going to the office, economic uncertainty, and all that's going on. And so it's not a matter of, yours is greater than mine, like you're saying with other companies, like, well, Mark said, no, loss is loss. And so I think being able to talk about that and recognize it and not run away from it and understand that, hey, man, if you're not struggling in this past year and a half, then you're lying.
Wow.
And it's okay to say, man, I'm really struggling. And what's hard for you this week might not be hard for you in a month. But anyway, I think just being open about that and being, encouraging people if they need help to go get it. And what can we do to help? We've had some real serious one-on-ones with people where it's like, look, you don't see what we're seeing, but you're struggling.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to tell you need to go see a counselor because I don't think that's my job.
Right.
But let me just tell you, I'm going to highly encourage you to go seek some help because you're struggling. You might not see it, but you are. And we love you too much to let you flail around and fail.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we have to be very direct like that. A lot of times I like people come to their own decision, but in this particular case, it's like, no, you need to go get some help, buddy.
Yeah.
And we are going to insert ourselves because forget about your productivity here at phase 2. You've got a family that depends on you, and that we want you to be successful in all regards. So.
That's good. And again, that's the other chapter you could have written in my book, where I always say you don't compare the ERs, you compare the ESTs. So it's not whose is better, it's whose is best. You can find your worst versus like something like losing your wife. If you sit there and go, well, man, that's way worse than what I have. Well, yeah, you're never going to be able to relate. But if you take that into when did you have the biggest loss of your life?
Right.
We had Natalie. Natalie, a couple months ago, passed away for 20 minutes, my daughter. Right. And we had to revive her back. And everyone was, I just can't relate. I go, yes, you can. You ever feel helpless as a parent? That's what we felt. And you can relate and we can connect. So don't shut it off because it's a little bit too much on the scale one way or the other, which is, again, I agree with you 100%.
And that's, I hope I've been able to communicate that effectively to our team because, again, my shorthand for it is loss is loss.
Yeah.
Everybody's loss is different. And so I've really tried to go out of my way to make sure our team doesn't go, well, I'm having this issue, but at least I didn't lose my wife. I'm like, no. You don't understand. Like what you were saying. You don't understand. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. And if it's not addressed, it's gonna manifest in ways that's not good. So let's go deal with that thing.
Yeah.
I try to model that. In this case, going to see a counselor has helped me go through that journey.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you have to get to my level of losing someone
exactly
to benefit from, in this case, some mental health services. So, I can identify with that 100%.
That's awesome. Well, hey, how can people find you if they want to reach out to you, if they're owners, they want to ask you questions, if they want to be potential clients, they want to be potential employees? How do they reach out to you? We get everyone listening to this.
Yeah, so the website is www.phase2online.com, PHASE, the number 2, online.com. And my email is markt@phase2online.com. So MARKT, and would love to hear from anybody that's got any questions. Again, I don't program, I don't code, and so what I enjoy is the mentoring and the coaching and the opportunity to, again, have a positive impact, no matter how small it could be, on other people's lives. And if there's business owners that want to ask questions, please reach out.
Well, Mark, I appreciate it very much. Appreciate everything you're doing for your people. Sharing on this episode, what a great, great episode to recognize. And the one way I would summarize what your advantage is as an owner and as a person is the level of authenticity behind who you are and what happens in your company is probably one of the main reasons why you've achieved the level of success you've achieved. So authenticity is something we don't see very often these days. So I'll say thank you. And congratulations on all the success. And thank you again for being on the podcast. Everyone, we will see you next time. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day.